I was 9 years old when something happened that fundamentally changed how I view safety. My family had just moved into a new house in rural Pennsylvania. I shared a room with my younger sister Emma, who was 7 at the time. Our room was on the second floor, while my parents slept downstairs. The house had a finished basement with a small apartment setup containing a bathroom, kitchenette, and living space. Apparently, it had been used as an in-law suite by the previous owners, but now it sat empty except for some storage boxes. The basement had its own entrance from the backyard, a feature my parents appreciated for bringing in groceries directly from the garage. We'd been living there for about 3 months by the time this happened. That particular night, I woke up around 2 a.m. needing to use the bathroom. Our bedroom door was always left slightly ajar, with the hallway nightlight providing just enough illumination to navigate without waking Emma. As I slipped out of bed, I heard something that stopped me, music playing very faintly, coming from somewhere in the house. It was a tune I didn't recognize, something that sounded old-fashioned, like from my grandparents' era. The strange thing was how muffled it sounded, as if someone was trying to keep it quiet. I stood in the hallway, frozen, trying to determine where it was coming from. After a moment, I realized it was drifting up from beneath my feet. I went downstairs, but realized it was still coming from below, from the basement. My first thought was that my dad must have left a radio on, but we rarely went to the basement, and I couldn't remember the last time anyone had been down there. I tiptoed to the top of the basement stairs and carefully opened the door, expecting the music to become louder. Instead, it stopped abruptly. The silence that followed was more terrifying than the music had been. I stood there, heart pounding, staring down into the darkness. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold, the sound of footsteps moving slowly across the basement floor. I closed the door as quietly as possible and ran to my parents' room. I gently shook my mom awake, whispering that someone was in the basement. She woke my dad, relaying what I'd told her. Dad grabbed his baseball bat from beside their bed and told Mom to take me back upstairs and stay there with Emma. I watched as he checked that the basement door leading to our kitchen was locked before heading outside to check the exterior entrance. Mom and I huddled with Emma, who remained asleep despite the commotion. We waited in tense silence for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. When my dad finally returned, his face was grim. He told Mom that the exterior basement door had been unlocked, and there were signs someone had been staying in the basement, but whoever it was had fled, probably when they heard me open the basement door. The police arrived within 20 minutes. The officer taking our statement explained that it wasn't uncommon for squatters to find their way into rural homes, especially older ones with multiple entrances. They ran a search in the neighborhood but found nothing. While I was making my way back into the house, I overheard the officers telling my parents that based on the setup in the basement, they believed someone had been living there for weeks, possibly even months. The thought of a stranger hiding in our home, listening to our movements, learning our routines, still makes me feel physically ill decades later. We never found out who the person was. We installed new locks, an alarm system, and motion sensor lights around the property. My parents took turns checking the basement every night for months afterward, but the damage was done. I never felt entirely safe in that house again. The most disturbing part came weeks later when I was helping Mom clean out the basement. In a far corner behind some boxes, I found a small notebook. Inside were detailed observations about our family. When we left for school, when my parents went to work, what bedrooms we slept in. There was a page dedicated to each of us, including personal details that could only have been gathered by someone watching us closely. My parents immediately called the police again, but nothing ever came of it. We moved the following summer, but the experience has stayed with me my entire life. Now, as an adult with my own home, I check the locks 3 times every night and never, ever leave exterior doors unlocked, even during the day. I was 19 and struggling to balance college classes with bills that wouldn't pay themselves. When I spotted a "Help Wanted" sign at the Gas and Go on the edge of town, I didn't hesitate. The overnight shift paid $2 more per hour, and the manager promised it would be mostly quiet, perfect for studying between customers. The Gas and Go sat at the intersection of County Road 16 and the highway, about 3 miles from the nearest neighborhood. During the day, it was busy with commuters and truckers. After midnight, customers were rare. The store was outdated but functional. Flickering fluorescent lights, dingy linoleum floors, and a wall of security monitors behind the counter showing grainy footage of the pumps outside. My first few shifts were uneventful. I'd restock shelves, clean, and read my textbooks during the long stretches of silence. The night manager, Ron, would leave at midnight, and I'd be alone until 6 a.m. when the morning crew arrived. It was boring, but easy money. On my 5th night shift, I was deeply focused on my textbook when the bell above the door chimed. I glanced up to see a woman in her 30s, wearing a waitress uniform from the 24-hour diner down the highway. She seemed normal enough, asked for cigarettes and paid cash. As she was leaving, she paused at the door and warned me to be careful tonight. When I asked what she meant, she simply said that this place had a history, especially on full moon nights. I was kind of creeped out by what she said, but didn't think too much of it and went straight back to my textbook. Around 2 a.m., I noticed headlights pulling into the lot. A beat-up blue pickup truck parked far from the entrance, almost at the edge of the property where the security cameras barely reached. The driver didn't get out. For what must have been at least 15 minutes, I kept glancing at the security monitors, watching the truck just sitting there, engine off, lights off. Suddenly, the store phone rang, and I jumped at the ringing sound. It was unusual. Hardly anyone called the store directly, especially not at this hour. I answered cautiously. At first, there was only static. Then a man's voice came through, asking if I was alone. The hairs on my arms stood up. I immediately hung up, my heart pounding. The phone rang again almost instantly. Against my better judgment, I answered. The same voice asked why I had hung up, saying he just wanted to talk. I asked what he wanted, trying to keep my voice steady. He said he was in the blue truck outside and was just making sure I was okay in there all by myself. I looked at the monitor. There was no way he could see me clearly from where he was parked, and I hadn't gone outside all night. I hung up again and called my manager. No answer. I tried the non-emergency police line, explaining the situation. The dispatcher said they'd send someone to check it out, but it might be a while since the closest officer was responding to an accident on the highway. While I was on the phone, the truck's headlights came on. I watched through the security monitor as it slowly circled the building. When it disappeared from view, I frantically switched between cameras, trying to find it again. The truck had stopped at the back of the building, right next to the employee entrance, the door I'd used to take out trash or have a quick smoke break. My throat tightened when I realized the back door used a simple key code lock that most employees knew. I rushed to make sure it was locked, but before I could reach it, I heard the distinct beeping of someone entering the code. I froze, watching the door handle turn slowly. With desperation driving me, I grabbed the mop from the cleaning closet and wedged it under the handle just as the door began to open. There was pressure from the other side, then silence. I backed away, clutching my phone. Then came a soft knocking, almost polite. A voice called through the door, claiming to be a regular customer who just needed to use the bathroom. The way he said it, calm, rehearsed, made my skin crawl. I didn't respond. The knocking continued, gradually becoming more insistent, then aggressive. The door rattled as he tried forcing it open. Suddenly, the front door chimed. I spun around to see a police officer entering. He immediately sensed my panic. When I explained about the man at the back door, he called for backup and went to investigate. By the time he reached the back, the person was gone. The blue truck was nowhere to be found. The police stayed until my shift ended. They took my statement and reviewed the security footage. The cameras had captured the truck but not the driver's face. The officer told me that 3 other Gas and Go locations in neighboring counties had reported similar incidents over the past month. I quit that job the next day. 2 weeks later, a night clerk at another gas station 20 miles away was attacked by a man who had gained entry through the back door. The description of his vehicle matched the blue truck perfectly. I still can't drive past isolated gas stations at night without thinking of what might have happened.